Welcome back to the Black Biblist channel. Thank you for tuning in. This is another episode, Wars and Rumors of Wars. This episode is about Russia versus the United States. Hey, the question is, can Trump save America? Important question. All the stuff going out. Is he the right leader to save America and the world? World War III looms. We're on the brink of World War III. And all the news agencies, international and national, are talking about this. This is the number one news right now. So this is important. But it's also important to understand, how did we get here? How did we get in this today on the brink of destruction? And so the news, like I mentioned, all the news outlets are talking about it. So it's the conversation of today. I want to bring in a prophet, Daniel. And Daniel was also saw what was going on today. He prophesied about it. And Daniel lived 2,000 years ago, and he actually prophesied, and it is materializing right in front of our eyes today. Daniel prophesied that it was going to be a Roman Empire, and this Roman Empire was going to be a strong conqueror, and it was going to conquer the world, and it did. He also visioned that near the breakup of this Roman Empire, it was going to be these seven kingdoms that was going to rise out of the Roman Empire and also conquer and control and have power over the world. And also Daniel saw also the destruction of this new empire. So, in our first episode, we explored Daniel's prophecies and the dramatic impact of these barbaric Germanic tribes that conquered the Western Roman Empire. These tribes evolved into modern nations like the United States, England, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands. These countries are the main players in NATO. In NATO, they are relentless warmongers. These countries here have been relentless warmongers. These nations, these dramatic tribes, play a pivotal role in shaping not just Western Europe, but the entire world as we know it today. So stay tuned to the end to hear my answer to, can Trump save America? Today, we glance into their legacy, spanning from their roles in the world, World War I and II, to the current geopolitical tensions around the globe. We will connect these historical dots to recent developments in global hotspots, including the Sahel, Ukraine, Sudan, the Middle East, and even we're going to look at the internal dynamics within NATO and the United States. Join me as we unravel the complexities of history and modern politics, exploring the ongoing state of war driven by the so called civilized nations and the urgent threat they pose to global stability. So, what are their active conflicts and proxy wars? Let's get a historical background. The United States is the major power of NATO. They're the superpower. And they have these origins linked to these Western Germanic settlers because, the United States, these settlers initially came from England and France and Spain and Portugal and the Netherlands. But since the United States, since its foundation, it has been involved in 93 conflicts. These range from direct military engagements to proxy wars. But on a global scale, the foundation of this country, the United States, is rife with slavery, theft, and genocide. With that being said, they are sanctimonious. In other words, they're not morally better than other peoples around the world, although they always claim or state they're doing things for humanity. They're not morally better than any other people in the world. And their actions have proved that. Because the United States and NATO, they don't have moral authority with its never ending wars and conflicts in the Middle East and globally, all over the world. They've been warned for the last 500 years, these dramatic trials. And it's the truth. This is history. This is history. And this is the reason the world right now is being on heightened nuclear alert today. In addition, these proxy wars in Sudan, Middle East, Ukraine, and other parts of the world demonstrate the ongoing greed for power and economic superiority. Now, in Ukraine, the United States have provided advanced drones and missiles capable of reaching Russian territory. And recently, they did that. They bombed deep inside Russia and some of their military bases that had planes that have the capabilities to carry their nuclear warheads on these planes. And so, it was agreement through these nuclear treaties that you um, put your planes, those nuclear planes, in sight. And so that's what the Russians did. And Ukraine bombed them with drones. And Russia knows that Ukraine would not have been able to accomplish this mission if it was not for military involvement and intelligence. Ukraine does not have that capabilities. And Russia has warned. Let me tell you what Russia said about this. Russian President Vladimir Putin warned that any U.S. made drones or missiles that hit Russia will be considered an act of aggression by the United States. This is brinkmanship, and it creates the real chance of a broader, potentially catastrophic conflict. France, a NATO member, has threatened to deploy troops in Ukraine to aid in the fight against Russia. Now, this is going to definitely increase tensions, especially if some of those French troops get captured or a lot of them get wounded and we have a lot of casualties, then France may want to increase their involvement. And NATO does not need a direct, although they are in there in this fight, but they don't need to be directly seen visibly in this fight. So let's talk about some of the internal NATO and US tensions that the organization have right now. Within NATO, there are tensions brewing. Some members, like Poland, they are staunchly supportive of more aggressive actions, direct aggressive actions against Russia. Here we go again. On the other hand, internal U.S. politics add to the complexity. President Donald Trump initially expressed support. Initially came in, he kind of expressed support for Russia and hesitancy towards aiding Ukraine. Trump often claimed he could end the war. Remember, when he wasn't the president, he often claimed that he could end the war in one day. But after 4 months of being president, he has failed to do so. In fact, it's escalating and it's getting closer to nuclear confrontation. You know, let's go back to the source of the problem right here. I'm going to go back to the source of the problem. And the source of the problem is NATO expansion. The problem NATO is it keeps encroaching on Russia's border. Let me explain this. I'm going to name some countries that used to be part of the Soviet Union. And some of these countries border Russia. So Poland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Bulgaria, Romania, Slovakia, Slovenia, those were part of the Soviet Union. And when the Soviet Union broke up, there was an agreement between NATO and the Soviet Union. We're not going to encroach on each other's territories. United States and NATO, of course, they reneged that. And now let's go back to 2014 because I'm giving you a history lesson. There was a Russian elected president, and the West had some dealing, was responsible, had their hands in it. They had a coup d'etat. They ran the president out of office, and he was ran back into Russia. And so these Russian speaking people, they said, wait a minute, whoa, 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 we don't want to be part of the West. What are they doing? And so initially Russia wasn't involved in it. And they say, wait, wait, wait. And then Russia say, hey, wait, wait. What are they doing? Yeah, they want Ukraine now to be on the border. And then they say, oh no, we're not going to allow Ukraine to be a NATO member right on our border. They have the line has been drawn. And so this is where we at today. Now you can understand where we are at. Okay, so today NATO does comprise of those Western European nations and the Slavic, and they represent one side of the global power struggle. On the other side, a formidable alliance forms between nations such as China, Russia, Iran, Houthis, and North Korea. They are aligning. And additional countries are also aligning militarily. These alliances represent or present significant challenges to Western dominance and are pivotal players in the current global tensions. And yeah, and so United States is and the NATO is having problems with all the other players, with Iran, Houthis, North Korea. So you see where this is going. And while we're on this, Iran and the United States is talking about, are in talks right now that could end up blowing it up. And I think Russia will help them. But I think North Korea will help them. And so for every action, and like I said in my other video, it's a reaction and it's getting worse. These alliances are a present challenge for the rest for Western domination. It is. And the West has definitely a problem with all these players right here in NATO. So what could Russia do in response? Okay, we know that Ukraine went in and bombed their planes, and everybody's on pins and needles. What is Russia going to do? And if Russia, uh, if they respond too heavily, then you know mm, that could be a problem. So they're going to have to target that proportionately. Okay, so military retaliation. They could target strikes on Ukrainian military installations. That could be expected, particularly focusing on their leadership and critical infrastructure. They could escalate the offensive operation. Russia may increase troop movement, take some more territory, and offensive actions within Ukraine, potentially mobilizing more resources to reassert control. Number three, they're good at this cyber war. They can hyper up cyber attacks against Ukrainian government and civilian infrastructure. Could be a low level risk retaliatory option. Number four, nuclear posturing. Russia might conduct military exercises involving tactical nuclear weapons or position these assets closer to Ukraine. Now, let's talk about that because right now, tactical nuclear weapons are on the table. And Putin have already stated that they have already moved those tactical nuclear weapons closer. But let me explain the difference between tactical nuclear weapons and strategic nuclear weapons. In 1945, the United States used strategic nuclear or atomic bomb on Japan. And strategic is meant to actually go after civilians. And they killed tens and tens and tens and wounded tens and tens of thousands of civilians because these bombs are dropped in populated, highly dense populated areas to inflict casualties. Now, tactical nuclear weapons, on the other hand, is used on the battlefield. And they can put these in artillery or missile heads, and they can provide really devastating damage to a battlefield. Number five, they can use diplomatic maneuvers, and this is the weakest one. You know, they could seek to rally support from allies while condemning Ukraine and the United States in international forums. But keep in mind, there also is a war of public opinion, and so both sides try to win the war of public opinion. So, what could NATO do if Russia respond like this? Let's talk about NATO's potential response if Russia decides to escalate further. NATO has a collective defense commitment, meaning an attack on one member is considered an attack on all. Here are some possible actions NATO might take. Increased military presence. Now, NATO could bolster its eastern flank, deploying additional troops and resources to member states bordering Russia and Ukraine, signaling a strong deterrence. Number two, enhanced sanctions. The West could impose further economic sanctions on Russia, targeting key industries and individuals to pressure the Kremlin, I'm sorry. But now, that has not worked. And that's very weak. Those sanctions have not worked. In fact, Russia's economy is better than the West economy now. Those sanctions, they have been useless. They have not stopped Russia from waging war on Ukraine. It has not been effective. Number three, military support, more military support, pour more billions of dollars in Ukraine. NATO members might ramp up military assistance to Ukraine, providing more advanced weaponry, more weapons, intelligence support, more strategic weapons, and training. They can do that. And number four, diplomatic pressure. Of course, NATO could lead diplomatic efforts to isolate Russia on the international stage, seeking to rally global condemnation of any aggressive actions that Russia take. Number five, preparedness for escalation. If tactical nuclear weapons are deployed, NATO will likely convene emergency meetings to reassess its strategy and respond accordingly, which could include military readiness and strategic positioning. The danger of escalation is real, y'all. It's real. And these implications of any Russian escalation are profound. A military response from NATO could lead to a direct confrontation between the powers, significantly raising the stakes. The atmosphere in Russia is one of anger and frustration right now, especially if they perceive that Ukraine's success this last success of attacking and destroying their planes, if they can determine and they know that it is backed by Western intelligence, this could spur a dangerous cycle of retaliation, drawing in more countries and leading to a broader conflict. Now, let's talk about Trump's current position and his his promises. Okay? And like I said, Trump currently right now, he is not the leader that is going to be able to get the United States out of this situation right now. Unfortunately, Trump doesn't have the leadership capabilities. And so, can Trump save America? No, I don't believe that Trump can save America. If this escalates and United States and Ukraine don't pull back, and if Russia starts using tactical nuclear weapons, which I believe will escalate to strategic nuclear weapons on both sides. And Trump, again, is having problems with Iran right now. They're also having problems with their other alliance members, China. So, can Trump save America from a nuclear attack? And let me go back and digress, because I understand a lot of historians would say, well, we always had wars, and that's true. However, in the last 80 years, since 1945, mankind has not been able to destroy itself. Do you understand that? Currently, the Roman Empire was not able to destroy the world. The Babylonian Empire was not able to destroy the world. The Greek Empire was not able to destroy the world. The Babylon Empire was not able to destroy the world. China, Russia, North Korea, India, Pakistan, they can destroy the world with this nuclear bombs. If they start using these nuclear bombs, the world would be destroyed. Now, let me get back to Daniel and the biblical teachers, because this is important. Because Daniel, he prophesied, or the Bible tells us that 2/3 of mankind will perish in the war of Armageddon, and that's World War III. I do thank you for tuning in. I have another video. Subscribe now and also hit that bell. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. I am